Hello everyone, and welcome back to Autódromo de Interlagos. I did say in the previous video that I'm going to come back and do another race on this track because I enjoyed it so much. And here we are. I was going to do it with just the normal GR3 racing cars, but I thought, no, why not? Let's do it with the fastest racing cars we have, which is obviously not LM and GR1. So this is going to be interesting. I am in a McLaren F1 GTR, which obviously I'm last, so you haven't seen me yet. But the car is a fast car. It's not the fastest, so it's going to be really interesting to see how well we do in this race. I have turned on our setting, which will deeply impact this race. But I am still interested. I am still interested to see how well we do. I do enjoy doing these intros before doing the races because I have no idea. But yes, settings for this is we will be racing in the dark again because I've turned the time to like 30, which is the max. So we will probably race in the dark. Tire wear is times 10. Fuel is times 10, meaning we will have to pit, and we will probably have to pit for both tires and fuel, which is going to be interesting. Makes the pitting more longer. I don't know the word for that, but yeah, I am interested to see that car there, the Valkyrie, that was called, the Aston Martin Valkyrie. When I did a race at the Red Bull Ring with these cars before, that car smashed it. So will it be better in this race? Who knows? Long streets, but a lot of corners. That is pretty much how to sum up this track. But yeah, I really did enjoy the last race with the LM cars, so the VGT cars mostly. So let's see how well we do with the racing cars. Let's jump into it. Oh, wow. There we go then. Oof. Let's explain how we did that bad. In the game, in custom races, and even in like normal offline races, if you're struggling, the game usually gives you a little bit of a helping hand by making the cars above you slow down. Not massively, but they kind of slow down a bit. Like for example, in the last race at Interlagos with the VGT cars, that Formula One type car, I don't know what, I forgot what it's called, F3500 something like that. That's way faster than the Mazda LM55 that I was driving. But because I had that helping hand, it slowed it down to the point where I was able to catch up. But on this race, I turned on BOP. I've forgotten what it's called, annoyingly. But I turned on BOP, which means that it kind of makes all the cars more competitive and turns off that like secret helping hand thing. So I'm on the highest difficulty in a race where 10 other cars are fast. I think I'm faster than that Porsche 917, by the way, but just couldn't catch up a bit with that at the end. But yeah, highest difficulty, no helping hand, and I finished 11th. I didn't have a bad race. I had a good race. I enjoyed it. It was a great race. But I just couldn't catch up to the CLK, the GTR, the Valkyrie, the S430, the GTR, the NSX, the RS5, and then the RCF. Those cars are all faster than me, and they pulled away. It's the first time I've ever done a custom race where I've been lapped. You know, and this is probably the first time ever that I've actually been lapped. Even in custom races, I never get lapped. So yeah, I didn't have a bad race. It's just this is what happens when you're in a car that isn't fast enough. It's a mid-tier car in this type of race. The F1 GTR is a good car. It's a fast car, just not as good as the cars above me. That's why I finished 11th. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was still a fun race. I guess hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. I know it's pretty boring when you're not challenging for first place. I didn't even challenge for 8th, you know. But it was still a fun race. A couple of overtakes in there, but I know I was mostly racing by myself. I think I was like 10 seconds ahead of 12th, and I think like 5 seconds behind 10th, despite, you know. But yeah, it was a fun race. I enjoyed it, despite not actually challenging. But yeah, that's what happened. I'm going to upload this anyway because it shows, like, this is what happens when you're not challenging for first, when you're in the middle of the pack. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next race where hopefully we actually challenge for top 3.